Well, John and I, when we're planning out our next career move, fast food, it seems to be an area that we both can agree on. And I saw an interesting article how workers at Church's Chicken, Pizza Hut, and Checkers are now getting expedited pay. And they get their pay like that day that they work.
Wow.
That's kind of cool, right? And it's all about grappling with a labor shortage that's not showing any signs of abating. And so joining us on the phone is the CEO of Bennigan's, which you're right, it's been a while since I've been into Bennigan's, but I used to love going there. Well, he took it over from Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and now they are starting to open more. Their sales are tracking much higher now since he jumped in. But Paul Mangiamele is joining us right now this morning. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, thank you so much. First of all, how in the world do you have time to do an interview if you're opening up all these new restaurants?
Well, it's all about the passion for the industry, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. He turned my mic off accidentally. What was that?
No, I said it's all about the passion for the business. And so it's if I have an opportunity to talk about how great our industry is, I take it.
Well, restaurant, a lot of folks will say restaurant work is the hardest work ever. Is that a true statement? I mean, it's a tough industry.
No, it can be, but it all depends on the culture. And I'm very fond of saying that, culture and passion eat strategy and tactics for breakfast. And it's about what your brand stands for. So we'll get into a little bit about the one tactic of the frequency of paychecks, but it's really more than that. And like I said, we'll get into that in a second.
Sure. Well, and that is the key to me. In a booming economy, restaurants are doing extremely well, but it is true, isn't it, that you're having a hard time keeping employees because, I'm not necessarily saying you, but in the industry, it's easy to go right down the street, 2 doors down, 3 doors down, 4 doors down, and keep applying to get better pay.
You're right. It's always about the people, and the availability of people is at an all-time high. It's fierce, not only to attract great people, but also proliferation of restaurants. There's over 1 million restaurants in the United States right now. So to combat that, you got to have great people. You got to have a great concept. You have to get great food and service, and that's just the ante to get in. I think the differentiation piece, at least for Bennigan's and why we're doing so well, and for Steak and Ale that I also own, is to reattach an emotional connection, the nostalgia, the retro contemporary feel that the brand has always had for the last 43 and 53 years, respectively.
Oh my gosh, you bring up Steak and Ale. At one point, that thing was the biggest booming chain there was, but it just seemed to drop off. What happened, and then what are you doing today to make that switch?
It's a complicated explanation, but what happened had nothing to do with the brand. But sometimes there's really smart people in possession of some of these brands that do really crazy things that are contrary to the longevity of the brand. In this case, for Bennigan's and Steak and Ale, really was a real estate play versus a operations play. So they let the brands drift. And I even have a book called Return to Relevance, Bleeding Green 25-8. About how Bennigan's came back, because what's more important than anything, regardless of how some people do really stupid things when they're managing a brand, it's about the emotional connection that we created with our consumer base that still exists almost a half a century later. I think it's a really cool thing, and again, these brands were pioneers of the casual dining niche. I mean, we created casual dining as a category, and so it's a pretty cool deal. And for us to perpetuate that growth, not only domestically but internationally, and with our great franchisees, you need great people. They make the brand come alive.
And how do you get those, and how do you attract them from other competitors? Is it better pay? Is it better options they have, 401ks? What do you do? Yeah,
it's the frequency of the paycheck is maybe just one piece of the puzzle. Logistically, I think it's going to be a nightmare. And the one time it doesn't work, they're going to probably alienate more people than they're trying to help. Mm-hmm. But the people quotient is absolutely critical. So what we do is first of all, it's the recruiting and the hiring of great people. We say wait for great. So we have a pretty well established, and again, since we've been around for so long, we've developed a culture of where people want to work for us. Especially in the server and the bartender. By the way, they get their paycheck every day, right? Because they make tips. And the average tipped employee makes like something close to $30 an hour. And so there never really was a problem. So the states that are eliminating tip credit for some reason, I can't understand why we're doing this. But part of it is the hiring. The next part is the training. And if you like, for example, we have a Bennigan's not too far away from you guys in Canton, down in Steubenville.
Down in Steubenville, right? That's the closest one to us right now.
Yeah, and they just had a hiring party where they had a bunch of people come in and they had food and drink and T-shirts and all the tchotchkes and they're fully staffed. They got great management. They got great ownership. Our franchisee, the Carapolati family, doing phenomenal job down there. And, and this is in Steubenville where some other brands probably wouldn't even go. But the thing is, because of that nostalgia, because of that, known, the recognition of our brand,
right.
We've been doing phenomenal. So, but we hire great people, but then we make them feel like family. And the more they feel like family, the more loyal they are to the brand. We also try to give them a quality of life, whether it's managers or the hourlies, where there's a little bit more of flexibility in scheduling. I grew up in the business, so 40 years of when hey, can you work a double today? And oh yeah, can you work 7 days a week? And oh yeah, I'll give you the overtime pay. And it just burns you out.
Yeah, you're a low man on the totem pole, so you get stuck with this. And I'm sorry, there's no excuse, or you're fired. I mean, I remember seeing that in early days when I was in fast food. It was crazy.
It absolutely is, and it still exists today because, again, what kind of culture are you engendering into your brand? But the other thing that's most important is, food service should not be viewed as a temporary job. I mean, I go all the way back to the guild system, or the apprenticeship where, like, for example, for me, I couldn't wait to go from dishwasher to server, from server to bartender, from bartender to assistant manager, and progress up the ladder. And so you got to make these career opportunities available. I have another thing where we're international, so I have an A team, a gold team for new store openings. And so when you're opening up in Europe or in the Middle East or in Mexico or in Central America, it's a lot of fun for those hourlies and managers to come in and take those training positions, which is recognition in and of itself.
Boy, no kidding. So you have employees that you call it the A team. They get to go to these openings at international locales?
Yeah, but that's if only they go A, B, C, D. And A, B, C, D is above and beyond the call of duty. So we actually have a recognition program.
Wow.
Where, we look for reasons to find them doing something right, not wrong. And whether it be a bartender or a server or even the dishwasher. I mean, we call them, dish machine operators now, right? DMOs.
Yeah.
And, people, that's the highest turnover position. So instead of making it, one of those things where people hate, to slave all day long, and that we cross-train them. So they pick up, more learning. They advance out of the DMO position and start doing prep or work on the line and start learning, the fry position or the grill position. And this way we provide the opportunities for them. I mean, the statistic is 1 in every 7 Americans have worked in the restaurant at one time.
Right.
So why don't we make it? I mean, I'm an advocate for our industry, obviously. I love it. But why don't we make it that apprenticeship? Why don't we make it something that they want to work in instead of making it an onerous position or opportunity?
Well, Paul, what a pleasure talking with you. I wish I had more time because it sounds like that's the kind of company relationship that folks want. I know when they go into there, sometimes you're right. They might be starting in the industry I'm going to school and I want to get into teaching or something like that. But others, they might not have that direction, and to think that they can move up and have that opportunity, that's all many of us need. Well, I wish I had more time. Paul, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. See you in Steubenville.
All right. Paul Mangiamele, who's the CEO of Bennigan's. So that's the closest one, John. It's in Steubenville. We'll be back in just a few.